Just finished watching episode 4 titled Playing with Fire, and I mean, I swear to God, this thing is playing out just like the season of like some dramatic TV show on AMC or something. It's like Game of Thrones with rednecks. So Carol's business, Big Cat Rescue, was the #1 search when you ran a Google search for Big Cat Rescue. Carol's foundation was the first place that came up. So Joe thought it would be a good idea to name his entertainment business Big Cat Rescue Entertainment. Figured why not just ride off the back of Carol's success to get a little bit of his own. And of course, they sued him for this. Copyright infringement and all of that stuff. Helped them to kind of gain a little bit of footing when it came to taking him to court over animal abuse and all of that fun stuff. So just more drama to add a little more fuel to the fire. Joe actually countersues them and starts kind of throwing some more blame out there about her killing Dawn and hoping that this will somehow kind of lead to Carol being arrested for his murder somehow. Enter Rick Kirkman, a producer and reality TV show maker, who at this point in time during the story decides to approach Joe about making a reality show called Tiger King. Kind of where the name for this whole thing kind of started from. Of course, Joe jumps on board with this thing. However, Joe already had an internet show that he was doing where he did a lot of bashing towards Carol. Basically, he had this blow-up doll that he would dress up like Carol and put a name tag on it that said, "Hi, my name is Carol." And he would, well, we'll just say do bad things to it, putting things in its mouth, things like that, and pointing a gun at it all the time, threatening to kill it. So Joe basically told Kirkman that we can do the reality show if you also produce my internet show. Well, Kirkman's like, I could really care less about your internet show. Sure, why not? So the budget for the internet show suddenly goes, sky high and all of this fun stuff, gives them lots more production value, that type of thing. They were basically instructed to record everything. Kirkman's cameras rolled 24/7 practically. Eventually, Joe will get sent an email of some of Carol's employees that had killed some rabbits and they had posted with the dead rabbits and they were smiling with these dead rabbit bodies in their hands. So Joe took to his internet show posting that just to, kind of throw them under the bus a little bit more. Well, once again, they, sued him for copyright. A customer to Carol's sanctuary took this picture. 5 years after the fact, Carol then bought the picture, then copyrighted the picture, just so she could sue Joe for the picture. And she claimed that the dead bunnies were basically, they were going to be feeding the bunnies to their favorite cats in the park, and that's why they were smiling. Like that somehow makes it okay to be smiling with a dead rabbit carcass. Okay. They also showed up at Carol's sanctuary to put on protest, dressed in a bunny suit with blood on it and stuff like this. Just, like a bunch of high school kids going at it with each other. Just drama back and forth. So finally, the court stuff kind of comes to a head, and Carol sues Joe for $1 million and wins. They don't even let Joe take it to court to kind of fight it. Basically, they're just like, we're not going to hear anything from Joe. You just win. You get $1 million worth of money or assets, that type of thing. Well, Joe didn't care. He's got this reality show coming down. So, yeah, we'll make a bunch of money off of that. And that's going to give me fame and money and all sorts of stuff. So screw her. Who cares? But this list of stuff that comes out that she's wanting to take from him, it includes like a tour bus, a semi, all the way down to like lawn chairs was on this list of stuff. So Kirkman has been shooting all this footage and getting a lot of really good stuff, but all of it's really going to Joe's head. He's getting really egotistical. Well, meanwhile, there's a network that's actually been negotiating with Kirkman for the reality show. They want to buy it. But of course, in typical, redneck Game of Thrones action, that can't happen, or else we wouldn't have a documentary series on our hands now, would we? So one day, while Joe is away at a funeral, the building that housed the studio, both for the internet show, it also had all the editing equipment for the reality show, all the footage that they had shot, and it also just happened to be where they housed their alligators, burned to the ground. 100% confirmed it was arson. The fire was so hot that it literally blew the doors off the building. The alligators inside were literally boiled alive. And all of the footage that they had shot for this reality show just gone. Well, as luck would have it, they actually caught some security footage of the person who set the fire. And Joe actually started pointing the finger at Kirkman, saying that the stance of the person, the way that the person walked, everything about him in the picture looked like Kirkman. But of course, this doesn't make much sense because, well, I mean, Kirkman, he's going to make just as much money, if not more, off of this whole reality show, so why would he burn all his footage? So Joe puts it out there saying, hey, we're going to offer this $10,000 reward for anybody that can give us the identity and lead to a conviction for the person in the video who set the fire. That $10,000 thing, that's going to come up here in a second, so remember that. Because you see, there were actually a number of people, including Kirkman, and one of Joe's two husbands, that actually thought that the person behind the arson was none other than Joe himself. While Joe was out of town at a funeral, they believe that he actually called someone or hired someone or something to have the building burnt down. But why would he do that, you might ask? Well, it turns out that about a week before all of this happened, Joe and Kirkman actually got into a bit of an argument. And Joe basically being, well, I'm the one who's, I'm this personality and I've got this zoo and this is all about me and da-da-da-da-da. But Kirkman says, oh, no, 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 no. All of this is my footage. This is my show, my premise. So everything in those tapes belongs to me. Your internet show, since I came on board here, all of that footage belongs to me. And he wasn't even trying to threaten Joe, but of course Joe did not like that this was the case. So he actually went to his attorney to ask their advice. And of course the attorney tells him, sorry, but yeah, he's right. Everything that they've shot, everything, the Tiger King, all of this footage, the internet stuff that's been happening that they've been taking care of, yeah, that's all theirs. Well, Joe happened to bring along a friend that was rolling a hidden camera during this whole thing and made the mistake on the way out of basically saying, well, we'll just see about that. Maybe I'll find somebody who wants to make a quick $10,000 and just have him take care of the whole situation. So it is entirely possible that Joe burned down his own building. I don't know. So now, not only have they lost all of this stuff, they've lost their alligators and all of these things, they've lost this building, they've got to try to rebuild this building, but this whole lawsuit thing is still happening. So to try to kind of confuse things, Joe starts changing the deed to the place, signing it over to his husband, signing it over, back over to Joe, back over to the husband, basically back and forth just to try to confuse the whole lawsuit. But, well, Carol's a millionaire, so her lawyers kind of know what they're doing. So it really didn't slow things down at all. As a matter of fact, it actually kind of amped things up because now Carol starts actually going after Joe's employees and eventually even went after Joe's own mother. In fact, the legal battles with his mom actually ended up bankrupting his mom. So at this point in time, you kind of start thinking like, oh my God, Carol is this horrible, horrible human being. How could she possibly do this to someone's mother? Yeah, about that. Turns out that that whole deed back and forth thing, at one point in time, Joe basically put a piece of paper in front of his mom, was like, hey, could you sign this for me real quick? Yeah, he signed the deed over to his mom, so he kind of dragged her into it. I'm not saying that Joe's a bad guy, I'm just saying that Joe kind of acts before he really thinks, and he doesn't know when to shut up, so he kind of invites a lot of this stuff onto himself. At least that's the impression that I'm getting at this point. So at the zoo, things are getting horribly bad. He's broke. I mean, his mom's now broke because of him. He's losing everything. They can't even afford enough food to feed the cats. So basically, Joe decides there's really no no alternative here. He actually calls Carol and Howard and he says, look, let's make a deal here, okay? My busy season is the summertime. The wintertime is slow. I don't make any money in the wintertime. So how about I make you monthly payments, but the payments will be higher in the summer and lower in the winter. And at first, Howard's like, you know what? That's fair. Sure, we can do that. But as soon as Carol gets on the phone, all of that kind of goes out the window. She basically says, you know what? Sure, we can do that. But I want your mom's house as collateral. Enter a man by the name of Jeff Lowe. Jeff Lowe basically is just this like millionaire guy. He's kind of like a playboy type dude. He frequents in Vegas and he owns this big mansion and all these fancy cars, Ferraris and all that type of stuff. And he also has 4 cats of his own. Well, he steps in and he's like, you know what? I'm going to financially back you in exchange for letting me keep my cats here. So of course Joe is like, yeah. So Jeff actually has the money to actually kind of fight back to Carol for once. And things kind of start looking pretty decent for a change. But meanwhile, Jeff, he's kind of like taking some of these tiger cubs, putting them in a suitcase, and then like taking them to Las Vegas, rolling them into hotels, and then using them as bait to pick up women for like big orgies and things because he and his wife were kind of polyamorous and just a certain kind of magnet comes to mind here that I could use. It's a bit of a pun. I'm not gonna do that, but I'm sure you can probably figure out where I'm going with that. There's cats, magnets, and like a cat magnet kind of thing. You hear what you get what I'm going with. You get it, right? Yeah. So Carol basically at this point, she's like, okay, so they're fighting back for a change. Tell you what, if we can drop it down to $35,000 instead of $1 million, whatever. If you'll just pay that off in like a lump thing, here we can just forget this whole thing. Jeff's like, hey, that's fine. Writes out a traveler's check, hands it over to her. Boom. Done. Well, because Jeff is now kind of taking care of a lot of this stuff, Joe's lawyers actually suggest, why don't you sign the deed over to him? And that way it's kind of like a fresh start for things. It's a new zoo. He's actually got the money to fight, so any legal problems that might come along, he can take care of it. So Joe's like, yeah, you know what? That sounds like a great idea. Sure. Turns out, hey, guess what? Jeff doesn't exactly have the money that he claims he does. You see, the mansion was rented. He was behind on his Ferrari payments. I mean, he had money, don't get me wrong, just not the kind of money that he originally claimed to. See, turns out that Jeff is kind of a con man, and things are kind of going downhill because basically Jeff stole the zoo right out from underneath Joe. And that's episode 4. So things are getting interesting. We got new players coming in, and yeah. I mean, I'm fascinated to see where this thing goes. So check it out, episode 5, and we'll be back.